A good friend of mine told me this story years ago. He is the stereotypical old big bad trucker. I've seen some weird stuff with him while driving in South Texas along the border. He never batted an eye. But while telling me this story, he had goosebumps and a concerned expression, which from this guy is about the equivalent of a trembling lip and shit-stained pants. I'll tell the story in the first person as he told it to me. Years ago, in the late 90s, I was on my way from the house, Central Texas, heading to Laredo to pick up a load. It was early morning, around 4 or 5. I had just come off a string of days at home, so I know I wasn't tired. I'm on one of those 2-lane winding roads in the absolute middle of bumfuck nowhere when I see something on the side of the road at the edge of my high beams. At first, I just thought it was roadkill, as is usually the case. As I get closer, I see that it is roadkill and there's someone crouching over the deer carcass. I remember thinking either this guy's taking the antlers as a trophy or he's fucking sick. As I got closer still, I can now see that this guy's eating the fucking deer. He's pulling chunks of meat from the stomach and bringing them up to his face. At this point, he stops mid-motion and looks up at me. Not at my truck, but at me. He, or it, stands up, and that's when I see that it's fucking huge, brown, and covered in hair. I remember thinking at this point, oh fuck, this thing is standing on the tiny shoulder looking at me. By this point, maybe 3 seconds have passed, and I'm about to the point in the road he's standing at. I didn't even think of stopping. In fact, I'm starting to lay on it and get the hell out of there. As I'm passing it, it's looking at me. Again, not at the truck, it's looking through the driver's side windshield at me. He obviously has the intelligence to know that there's a driver in here and knows where I'm sitting. As I start to pass him, I can still see its head above the hood of an old needle-nose Pete. Old truck design where the hood goes straight out from the windshield, known for being tall and difficult to see around. This thing is fucking giant. I remember seeing what looked like human intelligence in its eyes. It scares the shit out of me.
When I was a teenager, probably 15, 16, we lived in an old house that had many additions over the years. One of these additions was a large sunroom conversion at the back of our house, which was at second-story level with an attached deck. One sweaty summer night, I was sitting in the back room, all of the windows thrown open, the back door opened wide with our screen door locked, and it was around 2-3 a.m. I was watching TV, and I started to get the weirdest prickling feeling on my neck. It felt like I was not noticing something important. I got up and wandered into the kitchen, roamed the house for a bit, then gave up the ghost and came back. After about 10 minutes, I felt the same weird sensation. Next door to us, the neighbor had a large barn that was converted into a 4-car garage with white siding, and the direct line of sight out the screen door from where I was sitting was the side of the garage. As it happened, my neighbor had a son, a little bit older than me, who had just gotten home. As he pulled into their driveway, the headlights illuminated the side of their garage, and for one brief instant, the outline of someone standing on the other side of my screen door was thrown into sharp relief, and I clearly saw a person staring in at me. Naturally, I screamed at the top of my lungs, and I heard them thundering down the back stairs. My dad came running into the back room carrying his handgun, and I couldn't even speak. I just pointed towards the back door, and he ran outside after them. He didn't find anyone. I never sat out there at night without every blind closed and without the door locked again. To this day, I still have issues with windows being open at night because of the uncertainty of what is going on outside.
The second job I ever had was at a tiny family-owned store where there were never more than 4 employees at any one time. For a fair amount of time, we had this creepy guy who would come in. His clothes were always clean, but his hair was always greasy, like he hadn't washed in a month. English wasn't his first language, and he had a pretty bad stutter, and he would occasionally spit on you as he talked. He would also come in and home in on my only female coworker, making no effort to hide the fact he was staring at her chest whenever he spoke with her. I believe she said he never made eye contact with her in all the time he came in. One day he stops coming in, and we're all happy. About 2 years later, I'm working a new job 1 city over, and I run into the guy. He remembers me and my coworker. He freaks me the fuck out as he discusses my father and the cars he owns. I'm handicapped, and my father used to take me to work and pick me up from my old job. This dude had never come into the store anywhere near the beginning or end of my shift, so he had to have been keeping a watch on the store for some reason. About 2 years after that, the guy hires on as a temp worker where I work, stares at me constantly and never says a word. I take down my name and personal stuff from my desk so he can't learn any more about me. My boss and coworkers mock me for this. A few weeks later, before his project is done, the guy disappears from the office. Management absolutely refuses to talk about why he's suddenly gone, and at the same time, everyone stops making fun of me for being paranoid about him. It's been about 20 years since I last saw him, but if he did show up again, it wouldn't surprise me.
I've got something going on right now that creeps me out. It involves my landlord/building owner. Let me describe her. She's either Western Asian or Eastern European, perhaps Turkish or thereabouts. She's very standoffish and doesn't say much. I don't know if it's because she doesn't know much English or what, but most of my interactions have been through the property manager. She definitely gives off a vibe that makes me uneasy, and has since I first met her. She recently bought the duplex I'm living in. In addition to that, she's not renewing our lease or the neighbors, it's a duplex, because she wants to renovate. Fair enough, but ever since the neighbors moved out, weird things have been happening. She's around a lot, like a lot. Again, fair enough, she's probably doing work next door or getting ready to renovate. But at times, she can be seen wandering around the yard, looking seemingly at nothing. I didn't think too much of it until a couple weeks ago when I left for work when she was just getting there. My roommate was already long gone. When I got home later, before my roommate, the front door was wide open. Nothing was taken, and nothing appeared out of place, but the door was wide open. I know for a fact that I closed the door and locked it, and my roommate hadn't been home. This happened again last week. Each time I've gone through every corner of the house with a gun and found nothing, but both times she was there before I left for work. I'm convinced she's been snooping around. In addition to that, just this past Saturday, I was home alone and about to go to bed when I heard something next door, in the place that's supposed to be empty at around 1 a.m. Turns out it was footsteps. I instantly go into search and destroy mode and start guarding the entrances and looking around. Finally, I looked outside and her car is parked next to mine. I go outside and look through the neighbor's window. All of the lights were off, but I could hear her walking around. At this point, paranoia got the best of me and I stayed up all night waiting for her to do something. Also, I had to be to work by 6, so I had to get up early anyway. I wasn't actually going to make it to bed that night. So 4 a.m. rolls around when I was planning to get up, and I look and she's still there. So I go take a shower, and when I come back and check the window, her car was gone. So she must have heard me and booked it out before I noticed. Since then, she's been there for a few hours in the early morning twice that I know of. My roommate and I are creeped out and don't trust her. Though I can say if she decides to take it up a notch and come in while we're there, she's going to meet me on the other side of the door with my Mossberg.
This one is pretty tame, but it jumped to mind when you mentioned it being explainable. A while back, I went on vacation to visit some family members. I was out of town for about 4 days or so. When I got back to my house, everything seemed in order, except for one thing. There was a pink fuzz all over my floor. The fuzz looked like a mix between frayed wool and cottonseed, like the kind that cottonwood trees put off in the late spring. It was very light, and the pink hue was slight. I live in the top floor of an apartment complex that was recently renovated. That means fresh paint all over the walls, new cabinets and appliances, the works. As such, seeing this stuff was surprising. It was in the corners in the restroom, lying along the baseboards, basically anywhere a draft could whisk it. After pondering it for a minute, I decided it must have blown in through one of the vents in the roof during a blustery day. Maybe it was leftover lint or something blown back into the house from the dryer. Who knows? I left it at that and moved on.
The next day I go to work and come home as usual. As I'm getting into relax mode and walking down the hall, I glance up at the roof. Recall now that I am on the top floor of a recently repainted apartment. This means that there is a crawl space access panel in my roof. It was painted over during the renovation, sealing it off from above. Except now the paint was cut/peeled from the edges, there were dirty smudges on the panel itself, and pink fuzz wedged in the cracks. I panicked and immediately called the apartment office, but it went to machine. They were gone for the day. I called the emergency maintenance line at that point, never breaking sight with the panel. I get them on the line and calmly ask if there had been any maintenance done by them in my apartment while I was gone. No. My stomach did a backflip and I felt my face drain for a brief moment before the dude continued, but the energy company was in there last week to change out light bulbs for energy-efficient ones and redo the insulation in the attic. Turns out they had left a notice on my door to let me know that it was going to happen. I had tucked it away with the rest of my mail unread. I also found a bag of old bulbs secreted away behind my kitchen table from when they did their replacement.